Hello, I'm Tom from Gear4music and I'm joined by Marcus from D'Addario, and we're here to look at the range of different D'Addario orchestral strings. So there's so many different violin strings on the market, we're going to find which one is best for your violin and which one is best for your sound. And remember, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to click like, subscribe and comment below. So Marcus, thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
So we've got so many different strings that are available. There's so many different ones on the market. So why should someone want to pick D'Addario strings?
Right, so with D'Addario, we're an American company, but you may not know that our roots actually go back to Italy in the 17th century, where we started off making violin strings, as it happens. So it's really in our DNA, and we still have the same company ethos that we want to make strings that suit every player, dependent on their ability, and also to match any instrument out there. Yeah.
Fantastic. So in terms of the manufacture and the production of the strings, they really do stand out, don't they?
Yes, so yeah, we manufacture huge quantities of strings each and every day, and consistency is a real key factor for us. So we use laser micrometers to carefully measure each string before it goes into the packet. And just make sure that every time you open a D'Addario packet of strings, you know the string is going to work exactly as you expect.
So between pack, you get one set, get another set, and you know they're going to respond in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I'd like to sort of look at is that, you know, you buy your first student violin, and quite often it'll come with factory strings installed on there automatically, so you can get it playing right out the box. But I know you can be a bit eager when tuning your instrument, especially when you're beginning, or you might be a bit timid and just sort of go one step too far with tuning, and ping, the string goes, particularly the E string. So we're going to sort of have a quick look at what sort of string you might recommend. But first, can we just have a quick listen to how it sounds as if it were straight from the factory, as it were?
Okay, yeah.
So this is a Primavera 100 violin, which we stock and sell in good quantities, so it's certainly a popular choice as an instrument.
Indeed, and so these are the factory fitted strings that you'd get with this instrument. Right.
Great, thank you. So if the worst thing happens and you break a string, where in the D'Addario range would you suggest someone to look for a string?
Right, so for an absolute beginner, I would recommend our Prelude strings down at the end there, and they actually feature a solid steel core. So this is the perfect string type for a beginner or a novice player. What the solid steel core does is allow you to bow the string really easily, so the string will engage and speak really clearly. Playing the violin can be hard enough, especially when you're starting, so we really believe in making strings that make it a much easier and more enjoyable experience, depending on what level you're at.
So you've got so many different things to concentrate on when you're learning, sort of how to hold the violin, how to hold the bow, the tension that you put through the bow. So by having a reliable set of strings just takes off that pressure, doesn't it?
Exactly. And again, with the player in mind, as always, pitch stability is something we're really keen to focus on with the Prelude set. So when you string your violin with our Prelude strings, they will hold their pitch almost instantly out of the pack. And then equally for teachers, they don't have to worry about their students' instruments going out of tune too much in between lessons.
So the amount of times I've been in a classroom and I've had kids call me up, "Sir, my instrument's out of tune, it's out of tune," and you spend ages sort of retuning, and that's wasted time in a lesson when you can focus on your playing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does it sound with a set of preludes on? So we've obviously heard it with the factory strings.
So this is the same model violin, but this time strung with our Prelude strings. You can identify Prelude from the dark blue silking here at the bottom of the string at the tailpiece end. Right.
And we also sell this violin as a setup option already as our gold outfit. So if you did want to upgrade automatically straight away, rather than going for the factory strings, you can certainly go for the preludes.
Yeah. Okay.
So to me, that is really quite different. So I think it's probably a bit of a bolder tone compared to the factory strings. And it's much warmer as well, I think. So you've got a bit more volume and just everything you need out of a beginner string.
Exactly. I mean, you can hear the increase in projection, but another thing we do with the prelude strings, we add a damping compound to the core before the first winding. And what this results in is a much warmer tone. So often these strings are described as the warmest sounding solid steel core strings on the market, and that's the reason why.
Which is exactly what you want as a beginner player. So next on the table, we've got the Ascente, which is a more modern string in your range, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. One of our newest strings. So the Ascente set for violin and viola are really designed for someone who's been playing perhaps 1 or 2 years, starting to experiment with colour in their playing, maybe around the grade 3 sort of level, I would think. So the difference between prelude and Ascente is Ascente feature a synthetic core. So this is a multi-fibrous material which allows for a wider tonal palette, more nuanced sounds. You know, probably the player is more advanced now, more advanced repertoire, wants to get more colour into their playing.
You can certainly get that bit more expression behind it, which is what you want to do, is you sort of get a bit more musical and sort of explore that musicianship.
Exactly. But again, with the player in mind, we wanted to make sure that they were still easy to tune and hold their pitch really fast. So you can appreciate the synthetic material is quite flexible compared to a piece of solid steel. So we made sure it wasn't too stretchy, so they still hold their pitch really well. In our own testing, they're at least twice as pitch stable as any other synthetic core string on the market.
And that's one of the good things, that D'Addario do a lot of scientific testing behind it. It's not perception. It is actually sort of backed up by the scientific fact as well, which is really quite reassuring as a player. You know, there's so much that goes on into manufacturing string. You want to make sure that it's just right for the player. So I think it's great that you've got the pitch stability that you want from the prelude, but also sort of opening it up that bit more for the tonal colours from the Ascente. So next we've got the helicore. So I know these are a string that work great on acoustic instruments, certainly, but also do lend themselves to electrics.
Yes, indeed. So the helicore set feature a stranded steel core. So this is fine strands of steel twisted together and then wound. So what you'll find, you'll have all the benefits of a solid steel core set, like prelude. So really good pitch stability, very fast bow response. Also, they put up with humidity, temperature changes. But having that stranded steel core allows for a little bit more flexibility, which translates into a warmer sound. Still very clear tone, but a lot warmer.
Fantastic. So we've actually got 2 violins here. So one set up with the Ascentes and one set up with the helicore. So can we hear the difference between the two?
Yeah. And actually, whilst I put the shoulder rest on this violin with the Ascente set, you'll probably notice that the A string is actually a different colour.
It does look different.
It looks a lot brighter, a lot more silver. It's deliberate, I should add. One thing we do with the A string here is add an extra wrap of aluminium. So it has a double aluminium wrap. Often players will work through the E string and A string faster. They'll wear out a lot quicker. So we wanted to make the set more durable and wear more evenly.
So you get a lot more longevity out of the set, so you need to replace your strings less often, which is great because you end up saving a bit of money in the long run, so ching ching, more money in your pocket.
Exactly. Right, let's hear the Ascente set.
And then on to the helicores.
Yes. And so the helicore set, you can identify from the blue and yellow silking here at the tailpiece end.
And these 2 violins are the same. They are the Primavera Laureato, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. These 2 are. Right.
I think that's great for projections, certainly. It just sort of is a bit more bold in terms of the sound, and obviously you've got a bit more of the tonal colour, which was quite noticeable for me on the Ascentes. So fantastic. So one thing to say about electrics as well is that there's also the NS
There
strings.
is, yep. So if anyone's playing an electric violin, then of course, if you're using a pickup or not, depends. It's probably a good idea to use a string with a metal core. So helicore or NS electric fit that bill really nicely. Actually, another key feature to the helicore set is they have a slightly thinner diameter to them. So that means you can bow a lot faster, quicker bow response, but also playing chords. If you're doing electric, maybe some heavy metal, digging into some chord progressions, it's easier to play more than one string with the helicore set as well.
Fantastic. So that's great to know. So then next on the table, we've got the Pro Arte strings. So which type of player would really sort of lend themselves to these strings?
Right. With the Pro Arte set, I mean, they would suit a beginner or an intermediate player or a professional level player, to be honest. It's more about the sound color that they produce. They actually feature a single filament nylon core. So it's a very stretchy material. So you can imagine that means a much darker, warmer sound. If anyone has ever had experience of playing or listening to gut core strings, the Pro Arte set have a sound closer to that, really dark, warm, mellow sound.
So in my mind, gut strings are very much more towards Baroque or sort of period performance. So they are sort of quite prone to expanding in the temperature and humidity.
Exactly.
So at least by having something like the Pro Arte, it does sort of limit that a lot more, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, once the Pro Arte have broken in, which they do very quickly, they will hold their pitch exactly, and they're very reliable set to use.
So next we've got Zyx. So we're obviously sort of moving up more through the price points. So why would someone want to maybe have a look at the Zyx strings?
So Zyx, comparing them to Pro Arte, for example, they have a slightly higher tension. So that means you can dig into the string a little bit more, get a bit more projection, and again, create different colours, a wider range of colours.
And it can really open up the expression if you are sort of leaning into it a bit more.
Yeah, maybe you're doing a bit of solo work or a bit of chamber music, some orchestral playing. They'll suit a wide variety of settings that you're playing in. Very versatile.
And they come with different windings as well on some of the strings, don't they? So what does that actually mean for a player when you're looking at strings?
Right, so with the Zyx set, we have two options, one with an aluminium wound D string and one set with a silver wound D string. What the silver wound D string does is provide a slightly warmer, softer sound. So if you have a violin perhaps on the brighter side, it would probably be a good idea to try the silver wound D string set first, and it will just tone it down a little bit more.
It's worth noting as well that violins do respond very differently, especially when you are spending more money on your violin. There's more bespoke nature to them.
Yes.
So even if your friend is playing on one set of strings, you might want to explore something a little bit different for yours.
Exactly. And again, sort of moving up on towards our Kaplan strings, I mean, these would be more aimed at, advanced level player, perhaps a professional level player. And again, they're slightly higher tension, so you can dig into them, create more wide range of colours in your playing. And again, they'll lend themselves to a more expensive, luthier-made one-off instrument as opposed to a kind of factory-fitted instrument.
So there's the two different variants. So which way would you steer when you're looking at these?
Right, so with the Kaplan sets for violin, we have the Ammo and the Vivo set. The Ammo set have a more textured, warm, dark sound to them, so they would suit a brighter sounding, more open instrument. The Vivo set, if you have a violin that's on the darker side naturally, they'll provide a bit more clarity, more of a direct sound.
So for me, I think Vivo, that means live, so you're sort of giving it a bit more life.
A bit more lively.
A bit more body for it.
Yeah.
And then there's also a different E string you've got there as well, isn't it?
Hiding behind here. So this is our non-whistling E string. This string is actually not part of any set, so you can pair this string with any of our sets. It's only available for full-size violins, but what it uniquely does is stop the E string whistling. So this is a phenomenon that can occur when you go from the A to the E string sometimes, and the string just doesn't speak, or it produces a weird whistle, weird overtone. It doesn't engage properly. So what we did with the non-whistling E string is develop something quite unique. It actually has 6 superfine strands of steel twisted together. It's the only stranded steel E string on the market. and then we covered it with an aluminium winding. So what this means ultimately is it's impossible for this string to squeak or not engage. So you'll always get a clear tone.
So obviously a lot of research and development to actually sort of figure out that you need all that to go into one very thin string.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think it's also worth mentioning about different tensions, because the strings do come in different tensions and different gauges. So you've got a medium, you've got a light and a heavy. So
yeah.
where would someone want to look? Because obviously you've got all these different ranges of strings, and then you've got the added complication of the different gauges.
Yeah.
So can you sort of just explain about who would want to go for which gauge?
Sure. I mean, the key thing really to to pass on is that we design all of our strings at medium tension to suit the vast majority of players and instruments. So if you've never tried one of our strings before, I would advise going with medium tension first. Different tensions can solve other problems. And again, all of our strings are available as singles or sets. And it might be that you just experiment with a different tension string, but just one of the single strings. It might be you have a D string that sounds a little bit weaker on your instrument. You've probably already been to the luthier to check the bridge, the sound post, everything else. But if they can't solve the problem, then maybe a heavy tension string will help balance out the four strings. Heavy tension, you have to work a bit harder to get to speak, but it gives you more volume of sound ultimately.
So when you're trying out a set of strings, so certainly try and have a look at the medium first, and then you can fine tune from there. So at least the medium covers most different players.
Yeah, it's rare that you would need to experiment with the other tensions, and it's more with more expensive instruments, I would say, that you're going to be doing that.
Thank you. So just as a quick recap, we've got the Preludes, great starter strings, so does exactly what you need straight away, quick response, and you've got the stability of pitch. So you've got your Ascento, which gives a little bit more tonal colour, but still has the reliability there for the pitch as well. Helicore or NS strings as well, more for electric violins, but still sound great on an acoustic instrument. Pro Arte, which gives that different tonal colour and gives that little bit more body to the sound. You've got the Zyx, again, pushing a bit further, can really sort of put more tension through those strings to really open up your sound.
Yeah.
And then we've got the two different variations of Kaplan, which are ideal then for exploring a little bit more about your violin and what works best for your violin. So thank you very much, Marcus. Really appreciate you taking the time to explain all the differences in the strings. And remember, if you do like these videos, please do click like, subscribe and comment below. And thank you very much for watching.